And with that 18 years in the NFL, Matt Hasselbeck is joining us. It's funny about quarterbacks. A year ago, everybody's like Quinn Ewers first round. 2 years ago, Sam Hell first round. So you get lied to a lot about this stuff. Things change. I mean, when he dropped in the draft, Shedeur Sanders, what was your immediate first and second take on that?
Well, I was a little bit surprised, but there really weren't that many teams that were desperate for a quarterback. I mean, obviously, Tennessee, there's something out there with Pittsburgh. The Giants were a player. Pittsburgh, wondering about the Aaron Rodgers thing. But, once he fell, it was clear he was going to fall he could fall pretty far. And there were some great quarterbacks. And for me, as a sixth-round pick 187, I was kind of in my mind a little bit like Cry Me a River. There's some good players out there. Kyle McCord, Riley Leonard, Will Howard. But I do think Shedeur Sanders is a really good quarterback. I think he's talented. Clearly, his film was a lot better than I think maybe some of the interactions and some of the lead up to the draft. And that probably gave some people some pause. Some teams that might have taken him chose to go elsewhere.
So I would put Travis Hunter on offense, mostly because I could target him 12 times and get him the ball, whereas I'd rather do that than him used as a decoy, chasing around quarterbacks and not be part of the play. So, and I think he will be a prolific offensive player. But I do wonder on Tuesday or Wednesday during install, and he's in the offensive meeting and not in the defensive meeting, is that problematic?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people don't understand how it works in a real work week for an NFL team. I mean, I could see a scout being like, oh, man, this guy's awesome. He could play offense. He could play defense. But the reality of the process, you hear coaches talk about process. Wednesday is all first and second down. Offense and defense do the exact same thing every day during the week. Thursday is all third down in 2 minutes. Friday is red zone, short yardage, goal line. Saturday is kind of a walkthrough, mock game, situational, Hail Mary, end of game type situations. Obviously, you play the game on Sunday. So really, I think this is going to be a real challenge for the coaches and for the player. Playing the actual game is not the hard part. That's physically not a big deal. The preparation, you spend all day studying the intricacies and tendencies on third down of your own playbook, of your opponent. I just don't know how they're going to do that. They're going to have to get creative, and the coaches are going to have to be the ones to adjust.
I was really surprised. The Bears the last 2 years in free agency have mostly gone offense. And last year in the draft, better picks, they went offense. So I would theorize, okay, they're going to figure this defense out. And they went tight end, wide receiver, offensive tackle. I'm like, Ben Johnson is running the draft room, I think. Did it surprise you? What did you make of that?
Well, I think if you're a Bears fan, you're really excited to see that Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are together. I think they're on the same page. That's not something you can say in Chicago for a long, long time. But I think they're setting this up to find out if Caleb Williams is, in fact, Ben Johnson's guy. And, clearly he's got the ability. He's got the potential. We have not seen the execution on the field. So, obviously he goes out and gets his Sam Laporta type guy at tight end. He's got the wide receivers. He's building up front with the O-line. He goes and gets Ozzie Trapillo, an underrated second-round pick. I think it's going to be all set up for Caleb to either be the guy or not be the guy going forward. I love the draft. I really love what they did in Chicago, but now the pressure's on the young quarterback.
I had said this earlier. I talked to an NFL executive on Friday after this show, and he said, he goes, if Shedeur doesn't get drafted by the 38th pick, so 6 picks into the second round, he's being viewed as a backup, and some people they're not going to do that circus as a backup. He goes, keep your eye on Milroe. Everybody loves that kid, and he's not ready to play, so there'll be no pressure on the starter. So John Snyder, to me, is about as good as a personnel guy as the league has. I thought the Seahawks had the best draft. You know the organization well. What do you make? So I get taking Milroe over Shedeur because Sam's starting for 2 years. Let's not threaten him. What did you make of the pick, and what did you make of the Seahawks draft?
Yeah, I agree with really everything that you're saying there. And, I just go back to even on the quarterback thing. I think I've told you before, 2 coaches that came and sort of worked me out when I was in college were Sean Payton and Andy Reid. neither one of them worked me out. Sean Payton took me to lunch, and Andy Reid hung out in a whiteboard meeting room with me, and we talked. They both, I think, wanted to see if I was the kind of guy that they wanted in their quarterback room, that they wanted in their locker room, the person that I was. Like, was I going to fit in their team? And I think what I've learned in 18 years in the NFL is that humility is respected in the locker room. So I think, like, when you're talking about a Jalen Milroe as an example, he's everything you're looking for in a guy you're adding to your team, adding to your locker room, adding to your quarterback room. Your quarterback coach wants to coach a guy like that. You hear Mike McDonald talk about, hey, he's special as a quarterback in the traditional sense, but when this guy, like, when things break down as a defensive coordinator, my biggest fear as a D coordinator play caller is when the guy has the ability to go do something with it as a runner as well. And Milroe certainly is exceptional in that regard. So yeah, to your point, the Seahawks, they went and got their Steve Hutchinson type offensive lineman, no nonsense, versatile, potential Hall of Famer type talent. And then, like, obviously, later on they replaced Geno with Milroe. They add depth where they need to add depth. They get their Cam Chancellor in the second round, trying to rebuild that Legion of Boom, the Kyle Hamilton type guy that McDonald was using with Baltimore. I mean, they're in love with their draft right now, and I think Seahawks fans are as well.
Okay. I thought the Raiders, Aston Genty, I thought he fit Chip Kelly. I thought he was what they need. I think Geno's always proven on play action. He's a more than capable NFL quarterback. I loved that pick. That's one of the few we called. What did you make of it?
Yeah, we talked about it in March. I think you asked me the question, what I think about it. And it's an identity pick. I think in that division, too, with the great quarterbacks and the great offenses in that division, Pete Carroll views a great running game as an extension of the defense. He's got this formula in play calling. How many times do I run it? Plus, how many times do I have a completion? And that's my formula. Ball security is a major factor. But, like, when you go back to who Pete Carroll was at SC with Lendell White and Reggie Bush, and then who he was in Seattle with Marshawn Lynch, this fits him exactly. And I would even say that, if you really study what Chip Kelly was last year as the play caller at Ohio State, this was a run-first team, and this was a be the hammer, not the nail kind of a mindset that I think both coaches have. Perfect fit.
I am guessing that the Steelers have some sort of deal with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron just said, I'll wait to see how the draft plays out, and if you don't draft a starter, I'll come aboard. Will Howard's a backup right now. I'm guessing, because otherwise, I don't know what Pittsburgh's doing at quarterback. What do you think they're doing with Aaron?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I have no inside info, but this whole time when everyone's all this chatter, what's Aaron Rodgers waiting for? You either want to be a Steeler or you don't. Guys, do you remember what happened last year? Kirk Cousins signed a huge deal to go to Atlanta, and then they picked a quarterback like 8th overall or something like that. He's waiting for the draft. He doesn't want to be a lame duck quarterback. This is the perfect team for him. Pittsburgh's the perfect fit. He's waiting till after the draft. So you don't do something sort of foolish. Go get me more weapons. Don't go draft my replacement. And that's essentially how I think the draft played out. They got a really talented quarterback in the sixth round, and Will Howard. That's not a threat. He's more of a project, maybe of a guy that's like, hey, I really like this guy. I would like to sort of mentor this guy. I like what the Steelers did that way. And I do think there was a handshake agreement. Let's wait till after the draft, and then we'll talk, and get your pen out, and we'll put this thing to paper.
For the record, a team will go into camp with 12 linebackers, 14 offensive linemen or more, but generally you don't have 5 quarterbacks. How does Cleveland figure out? I mean, I think Shedeur is going to win the job eventually, but it is a lot of snaps. Dillon, Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco. How's that going to work?
It doesn't, honestly, Colin, it doesn't feel like a head coach GM draft pick for that reason. It feels like an ownership draft pick. It feels like, they had a plan, and then all of a sudden someone who ranks higher than them said, hey, why don't we do this? And so something's got to change. There's not enough reps for 3 guys, really, never mind 5. So I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody get traded at some point. That's just the nature of how it goes. But I remember being My first year, I was the 4th string quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And like I said, there's nothing to do. Essentially, they used me as a practice squad tight end at practice. So somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to go. And that's an interesting dynamic in that room. Obviously, people will be talking about that one and watching it very closely.
By the way, finally, the outpouring of affection to you on the passing of your father, I think, speaks volumes about the Hasselbeck family and you in particular. I have met your father. I've met your family before. And I just think we want to pass along how much we think of you. And it warmed my heart to see the outpouring of affection by the internet toward your family, my man. We think highly of you.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, my dad was larger than life in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I hope we honored him at his funeral. He's a great man, and still in shock a little bit, but he'll be definitely missed.
All right. Matt Hasselbeck, one of the really good guys in our profession, 18 years in the NFL. That is interesting. They had Matt playing tight end in Green Bay. So as he noted, it felt like an owner pick, not a coach GM pick. And that's what my friend John Middlecoff theorized. They took Dillon Gabriel around early just to get out of the Shedeur stuff. But, the owner, he liked Baker, who's a lot of personality. He liked Johnny Manziel, a lot of personality. He wanted Deshaun Watson. And, owners now, listen, they get the final say.